Today's text comes from the prophet Habakkuk in the Old Testament, chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. In your Pew Bible, it is on page 762. Habakkuk chapter 2, 1 through 5. I will stand at my watchpost and station myself on the rampart. I will keep watch to see what he will say to me and what he will answer concerning my complaint. Then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so that a runner may read it. For there is still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end and does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Look at the proud. Their spirit is not right in them, but the righteous live by their faith. Moreover, wealth is treacherous. The arrogant do not endure. They open their throats wide as Sheol. Like death, they never have enough. They gather all nations for themselves and collect all peoples as their own. The word of the Lord. The prophet Habakkuk comes at one of those times when Israel is suffering and struggling through exile. It comes at a time where they had taken God for granted and the blessings that they were living in for granted. And as they took it for granted more and more, farther and farther was their relationship with God. And at some point, something happened, and the people were taken away from their home. And here we have Habakkuk, a prophet with a strange name, yet he is probably one of the most human and also very, very normal of people. For if we read the 3 chapters of Habakkuk, you would probably relate to how he was feeling in terms of what he was saying. In the first chapter, he's crying out to God, asking why. He's crying out and saying, how could this happen? He's crying out and wondering, why has all this occurred to me or to us? And I know that for all of us who have lived more than a few years, we've all come to one moment in our life, at least one moment, when we ask the question, why? When we ask the question, how could this happen? How could we have allowed this? Or better yet, how could you, Lord, have allowed this? So we see that Habakkuk is bringing a very human perspective to this relationship thing with God. He's presenting himself before God. He's lamenting the things that have been lost. He's going through the process. Part of it is grieving for the people who have lost so much, for he has lost so much. But it's also crying out, asking for an answer, asking God to reveal God's self. God, please, I need you. God, I'm trying, but I can't make it. God, can you speak to me? And often, when we cry that prayer, very often the answer comes. It might not be in the booming voice that we want, because often we want this miraculous moment where we're sitting and the room is full of light and all changes, and God is like, this is why I did this. But that's not how it comes, no, right? Instead, it comes through a phone call or a note, an encouragement and a conversation, through someone coming and not knowing what we were saying or what we were feeling, yet speaking right into that pain and that struggle. And we know in that moment that God was listening, because normally the person has no idea. They're just sharing, or they're just talking, or they're telling a story of what they've been through, and it speaks directly to you. And we know that God is speaking in that moment. But we all have cried out at one moment or another. Why? What did I do to deserve this? How could you? Why am I in this? And more often than not, we can trace the steps that led to that, but we prefer to speak it out and say why. And here in chapter 2, it's God's response to Habakkuk's lament and his complaint, to his cry, where God says, write the vision and make it plain on tablets. Let everyone see what the vision is. Let everyone understand what the vision is going to be. And as he was going through this, as he was explaining and he was listening to God, I was reading this and I was wondering, well, how can we relate this to our everyday? And as I thought about vision, it seems too often that vision is dead in our society. I'm not talking about sight necessarily, but it seems that in our communities and as individuals, we're trying to live in the moment, which is hard enough, but we lose where we want to go, how we're going to get there. And how does that process start? That process starts with realizing and understanding where you have been. So what's your story? What has led you to this point in time? All of our stories have culminated to this moment because here we are all together. But I want you to think about your story. What brought you here? What are the things that occurred in your life that brought you to this moment? What are the things that happened in your life? How was it that God came into your life? How is it that God has been speaking into your life? What are some of the things that have occurred to you that have brought you to this moment in time to be here with us today? When I think about my story, I would have never thought I'd be in a suburban church outside of Philadelphia. I never thought I would leave New York because in my mind, New York City was the world. When you grow up in a place that has everything, you really don't think about going elsewhere. In my mind, the world outside of New York was an apocalyptic desert because I wasn't going out there. I wasn't going to leave New York. Why would I leave the city that has everything? Everyone is trying to get there. I was born there. Why would I leave? I would have never thought to leave New York, but yet here I am. What occurred that got me here? If I was left to my own devices, I would still be in New York. I can tell you exactly what my career path was going to be. And it wasn't a bad one either. My dad worked for the Board of Ed. He was on the custodial staff and then became a custodian engineer. I started when I was 18. I started working for the Board of Ed. I was on the custodial staff. I was on pace to become the fireman, which is the person who takes care of the boilers. And then I would have taken the test and become a custodian engineer. And that would have been a good career. I would be 25 years into my career already. What happened? Something occurred. There was a God intervention, a God moment, a moment that saw that there was a world that was bigger than what I realized. And it took one person to help me to open my eyes to see that. Reverend Dr. Loida Martell, the associate pastor of my small church in New York, Soundview Baptist Church. She came in as the youth pastor, as the associate pastor. She saw me cleaning the church one day because I did that with my dad, and she asked me as a 15-year-old and said, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you get older? You know, I was 15 already, so I should have some idea at least. And I was holding a broom and said, this is all I know. So this is what I'm going to do. And she said that night she went home and she cried because she realized that the youth, including like holy roller like me, I was a church kid, I admit it, couldn't see beyond what was before them. Couldn't see the world bigger than the Bronx, than New York City. And with that, God inspired her to start taking these inner city kids to different places. We went to Boston to see Andover Newton Seminary. We went into Boston and saw Boston University. We started to travel to different colleges and places. College wasn't even in my vocabulary, let alone imagine going to it. But yet God opened the doors. God brought someone in. I had no vision, but God allowed someone to have a vision that allowed me to open my eyes, that opened my eyes to realize there was more, and allowed me to have a vision beyond New York City. And I'm not trying to demean. My dad supplied and all the hard workers. I know how much work it is, and they get paid well, and I'm not trying to demean that at all. But there was no vision beyond that until God intervened. The moment here with Habakkuk is God intervening. They had lost vision. They couldn't see beyond what was or what is. And so today, I want you to reflect upon your life, because the vision begins with where you have been. Where you have been will bring you to where you are. Your story today doesn't begin today. Your story begins a while ago, but yet it has brought you to this very moment, to this very time, to this very day. And today is an important day. I found this quote from Hemingway that says, "Today is only one day in all the days that will ever be. But what will happen in all the other days that ever come can depend on what you do today." So your story has led you to this moment, to this time, today, here, September 29th, 2019, at Lower Merion Baptist Church, 11 o'clock service in the midst of this community. Your story has brought you here, but now there's a story that's about to be told. There's a story that is beginning. There's a story that's about to take place. There's a story of God intervening and opening your eyes on this day, beginning on this day. But now the thing is, are we willing to have our eyes opened? Are we willing to have vision? Are we willing to be able to see and to aim and to direct and to get to where it is that God is calling us to? As a church, we know our history. We have said it well. We have read it. We have spoken it. 211 years we have been a church here at Lower Merion. We have a long history, and it's deep in American history. We have all these things that we have done, all the work that we have done, everything that we have come to, and yet we still, as a church, also come to this very day. Because the vision has been clouded. The vision has been deterred. The vision has become worry. When I started 4 years ago, on a summer Sunday, we had 10 to 12 people, and we worried about the doors being closed. When I started 4 years ago, we weren't thinking about children. We weren't thinking about tomorrow. We were thinking and wondering, how long can we continue like this? Worry had crept in. We weren't being strong, and we weren't being courageous. Instead, fear had found its way in. Just like in your life, fear finds a way of coming in. But our time now is to be strong. Our time now is to be courageous. It's time to renew the vision. Or better yet, it's time to receive a new vision. God is not done with your life. God has a lot of work to do with each and every one of us. You are included in that. But are you willing to be strong? Even when you feel weak, even when you're struggling, even when you get up and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through today. Are you willing to push through? Are you willing to, even if you're feeling a certain type of way? There's a saying that says, fake it till you make it. And sometimes our life has to be like that. Because if we allow ourselves to be what we feel, then we'd be in bed and wouldn't want to get up. Then we'd be weak and we'd be weepy and we'd be just people who aren't very productive. When we're at work and work needs to be done, it doesn't matter how you feel, right? The reports have to be done. The work has to be done. You get paid to do these things, so you push through. Now it's time to do the same in your life. Now it's time to push through the darkness. It's time to push through whatever is preventing you from moving forward. It's time to make it through because you have made it this far and there's so much more to go and so much more to do, but you have to make your choice now. Will you allow the vision to become clear? Will you allow the vision to become what it needs to be? Are you willing to be strong and to be courageous? Are you willing to allow God to come in and be God in your life? Not God on Sunday morning because I go to church on Sunday morning and then the rest of the week I do whatever the heck I want to do because that's my life. But are you willing to go beyond that and be more and allow God to be more and to live more and to be strong and to be fearless, even if you're afraid, even if you feel weak, even if you think you can't make it? Are you willing to allow the vision to come? Because the vision is not something that's going to drop out of the sky. This isn't John Smith and the Mormons with golden tablets falling from the sky. This is about your story that you have lived through, your story that you are currently living, and what's yet to come. God is going to reveal it to you if you are willing to see. It isn't created from nothing. It isn't created from some alternate reality that suddenly falls into your lap. It comes from the person that you are. It comes from the lessons that you have learned. It comes from the depth of all that you are, all that you have been, and all that's yet to be. God has it right before you if you're willing to see. Are you willing to see? The vision is at hand. Your time is at hand. Lower Merion Baptist Church time is here. And we are a part of this. The vision is ready. God has been waiting for us. God has been waiting for you. God has been trying and reaching and hoping and standing there saying, yes, come. And then we turn around and don't come in. God has been like, here, look at all the wonderful things I have for you. And we turn away. But now is our time. Now is your time. Write it on a tablet for all to see. Let everyone see what God is doing within you. Let everyone know the story that has brought you to this place. Let everyone be witness to what God is doing. Let everyone be a witness to what happens when we allow God's vision to become our vision. The scripture says to put it on a tablet. We are that tablet. Let everyone know we are the ones who let them know. For when we allow the vision to be clear and we allow God to be God in our life, others will see. Others will see the difference. Others can tell something is different. Others will tell you something is different about you. And then you can share your story. Then you can tell them what has happened. Then you can say that I started on this, the 29th of September, and realized that even though it was just one ordinary day, it changed all of the days that were yet to come. So let yourself. I encourage you. I encourage and I challenge you. I dare you to allow God to clear your vision. Allow God to be before you, to be your vision. Allow God to be God in your life. And I promise you, everything will change.